time! Hey, what is going on, everyone? It is time. It is noon with them again, and it's actually noon out here on the west coast of the United States. But as you know, Noon with them is a global show, so it's noon somewhere all the time, and it's always time for Noon with Nem. This week, I have a very special guest. He is an incredibly talented writer who has written books and comic books. He knows his stuff. He's out there. You've seen him on the internet, on Twitter, as DT2 Comics Chat. He's always putting up all the best takes about pop culture, raising those interesting questions. He also happens to be my friend, if he wants to own up to that. But he has a new book called The Z Normals, which we are going to talk about tonight. It is DT2 Comics Chat, David Taylor. How you doing, DT?
I'm good. How are you? And yes, I do own you as my friend.
Thank you. That's a brave choice, but thank you. Man, it has been not that long since we talked about. I appeared with you talking about something that I have coming out, but I always love to talk to you about anything you got going on. I love to talk to you about pop culture. I mean, life has gotten busy, so we've kind of missed each other on some stuff, but I am so happy to talk to you about this. This took me by surprise. I had no idea you were talking about or coming out with this new comic, The Z Normals. So real quick before we break it down, because I do want to introduce all of you out there to DT, but can you give us the one over the world pitch real quick for Z Normals, and then we'll get into it in some more detail in a little bit.
Yes. One question. What if you could turn pain into powers? And so we spend time answering that. That's the whole heart. That's the whole crux of this story.
Interesting. Now, I have to ask the question. We'll get to the bio in a minute, but are these people that are turning pain into powers? Do they have a special way to channel this? Do they have a mutation? Are they mutants, or is that asking to give too much away? So
no, it's a combination of things. It's different for each character. That's why I'm so excited about it. Some of them have situations or conditions that we're born with. Some of them have terminal illness. Some of them have had accidents. But they all come to the situation with some type of challenge. And that very challenge is then turned into super ability.
Now, I want you all out there to look down below at the banner that's scrolling across. I'm going to leave that up for long moments during the episode. You can also look at the episode description. The link is down there. This is for the pre-launch page, which I'm going to throw up real quick here for the Z Normals. It is live for pre-launch on Kickstarter right now. Go sign up for the pre-launch. You're not committing to anything. You're just saying, hey, I'm interested, and you'll be notified when the campaign goes live, and it'll allow you to get your information in there so DT can judge by what's going on. And then when that campaign goes live, you could go straight to it and check it out. And I know you're going to back it because it looks fantastic. But right now, I just want everyone to know that's new to Kickstarter. You're not committing to anything. You're committing to saying, hey, this looks cool. I want to know more. So go out there and sign up for this pre-launch right now. So, all right. So let's back up a little bit, because everybody out there may not know DT the way I know DT. So let's get into this. First off, I got to ask the question, who is David Taylor II as a creator? What do you love to do as a creator?
As a creator, I fancy myself a wordsmith, because everything that I do is based on words. I write music, I produce music, I write children's books, I write novels, I write comic books, I write poetries, I write plays. So I'm a wordsmith. I love words, and I always have. They have so much power, and I'm always thinking about more creative and more effective ways to say things because words make countries rise and fall. Words make kingdoms rise and fall. Words make families rise and fall. So if I had to describe myself, kind of distilling it down to one thing, it would be being a wordsmith.
Awesome. Now, this is a question that I'm sure you've gotten 100 times, but I got to ask it. It's part of, it's like when you sign up to do these shows, they say you must ask these types of questions. So, how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do, to be a wordsmith? But specifically, I mean, I know you do music and poetry and the whole thing, but specifically writing novels and comic books, which is where I first came to know you as a creator, which was novels and comic books.
Well, that gets into my secret origin story. And my secret origin is that every Saturday morning when I was a child, my father would take me to the newsstand in my hometown. And if you know anything about fresh newspaper and fresh books, they have a smell.
Oh,
they have a very distinct smell, and it's like you either love it or you hate it. And I loved it. I loved being in that atmosphere. I loved absorbing everything around me about that. And then my father introduced me to comic books, and I loved everything about comic books. It was one of the things I learned to read on. So when I was 4 years old, I learned to read on the newspaper, comic books, and the Bible. And I still love all three to this day. And my father looked me right in the face. And when I got my first round of grades, he said, "That's what I expect from you from now on." Yeah, no pressure or anything. But anyway, so my love for that, and it's why I wanted to pass that love on, because learning to read and learning to expand your mind by going through different story worlds. And I am a firm believer that human beings know innately that we're more, that we have more, that we can do more, that we can see more, that we can be more. Superheroes are one of the most common vehicles whereby that very human desire is expressed. Now, I couldn't articulate all that when I was 4. I felt it, but I couldn't say it like I just said it to you. But ever since those Saturdays with my dad was and is my hero. And I'm named after him. I look just like him. So getting that and having my father say he's proud of me for reading, he's proud of me for learning, and he wants me to keep that going and keep that up and all that. Once I got a comic book in my hand, my brain exploded with ideas. And I said, I love this, I need this, and I can do this.
Awesome. Now, I have to ask, I don't think I've ever asked you this question before. What was the very first thing you wrote, like, whether it was published or not, but that you wrote and you were like, hey, I love doing this, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a story. It could be a poem, a short story, a comic script that you never got done. What was the very first thing that you did?
Very first thing I wrote, and I drew it, was a comic called Bat Boy. And I made up a hero that was bat-like, and he had different kinds of powers, and I had him run around through the city fighting everything. And my son has seen my earliest comics, and they just crack him up, but he has read all of them. And so I said, I've got ideas about the city, I've got ideas about villains, I've got ideas about powers and how you want to fight. I've got your catchphrases, because we've all got catchphrases that we love. It's Clobbering Time, Avengers Assemble. My favorite one, Flame On by Johnny Storm.
Oh, yeah.
And so I knew I had all that inside of me. So it was Bat Boy around 5 or 6 years of age.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you still have the originals, huh?
I do.
Awesome.
I do.
And that's a big surprise to me because I know that you don't like Batman at all. So,
so don't know where that came from.
All right.
I have a Batman ring. You see my ring? That's how much I love that. And so if I clock you in the head, it's gonna leave a stamp.
You're not going around with the oh God, why am I from the Chappelle show, the Unity ring. So, but
No, not on a bat ring.
yeah. All right. So we've talked about DT, but I really want to talk about the Z normals because this is fascinating about pain being the source of your power. So, first of all, where is the Z normal set? Are we set in the real world? It's a fictional real world, or is this a completely fictional setting? And obviously, if it would spoil something, don't spoil it. So,
Okay. Well, first I want to start with the title because I know a lot of people may not know what that means.
okay,
Z normal is a statistical term.
right.
It's a standard normal table, the unit normal table, the Z table, mathematical table, help you understand the cumulative distribution function of the normal distribution. Used to find the probability that a statistic is observed below, above, between values on the standard normal distribution, and by extension, any normal distribution, straight out of Wikipedia. What that means in this world is how far can we deviate from the median and still be considered normal?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the core questions that the book is always dealing with, because I have never, how can I say it? I don't always agree with the terms that people use, especially when they're used in a pejorative sense. I might use them for ease of conversation, but you are not something because somebody calls you something. And if they call you something, that does not by default make it bad. That's just a social construct. That's just a social contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like many, many years ago, being a geek or a nerd was an insult. Now all of a sudden, geeks and nerds are cool because we're dealing with intellectual property worth multi-billions. So that's what I mean. So to answer your actual question is it's set in a real world but fictional cities. So it's real world, it's on Earth, but it's in fictional cities
Cool.
that are similar to New York and San Francisco.
Okay. Now this group, the Z normals, I guess that's a better question. Let me back up. Are they a group? Are they a established group, or what's up, Adam? Are this is a collection of individuals who happen to have powers, and maybe they're going to run into each other? So, or is that
no, really a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because when we meet them, they're still dealing with their situation, because another one of the foundational aspects of this book is that the people that give them the powers is the mafia.
Mm.
So what do you do when someone has given you a way to turn pain into powers, but that someone is the mafia? And so the book is dealing with how they deal with that.
Okay, so let's get to the giant elephant in the room now, turning pain into powers. Now, immediately when you say that to me, my writer's brain starts going with little alarms in my head going, woo, woo, that's a potential problem. That is a big old meatball hanging out there. So am I off base here? Or are we talking about, some people could handle that, and judging by social media today, some people that have pain in their lives that were given power that derives from that pain would be a big old problem. So what do you say to that?
That's part of the fun and the challenge of the book, is watching each character's reaction to that very thing. And they all have different reactions based on what their condition was before they got involved with the mob family that they're involved with.
Mm.
And so if you had this procedure and now your life has changed for the better, what if I don't mind doing a little assassination runs, or being a drug mule, or whatever? I don't mind doing some dirty work for you because I'm happy that because of you I get to do this thing now. Or what if I'm mourning my old life and I can't believe I'm doing all that I'm doing, and do I want to keep doing that? Because maybe I would have to give up my powers and go back to my broken state if I don't want to keep going out on missions for the mob. So that's what we're dealing with each character, because each character has a different answer to that question, and each character has a different situation that they're dealing with. And so it's not like The Boys. It's not like where you make a Homelander and he's crazy and destructive. You can't do nothing about it now. It's not that. It's not like that at all. But it does involve drugs.
I'm just imagining someone like, to go to Batman, Zaz, getting powers from his pain, and now we have a complete psychopath that is powered as well. We're talking serious, dangerous individual. So now I have to ask this question real quick, and then I'm going to ask you another question about the story. But is it just a coincidence that the guy at the bottom of your page there looks like Keanu Reeves? So
you're not the first person that asked me that, and it is a coincidence.
Okay,
I was like, a coincidence. Yeah, that wasn't the original idea.
I first saw this, I was like, damn, DT's going to get a cease and desist from Mr. Berserker, man. He's going to be like...
No, we were not trying to make him look like Keanu.
Okay.
But I can reveal that the cover behind me and the mock-up that you have, that cover was drawn by Amankang Nwelpine of DC fame.
Cool.
So we got a seasoned artist to draw this, and this is cover one. And that's another reason I'm excited about it, because put a lot of work into this.
I do have to say that as much as there's a certain stigma about the pink-haired female out there, and certain things, when it's done right, I dig those characters. Like, one of my favorite X-Men is Pixie, and this character that you have up there reminds me of Pixie a lot. I think she looks great. Awesome. But that leads me into this question. So I'm looking at these people, and it just stirs my imagination. I've got questions. You've got some mathematical equations on there. You got the guy who is obviously an African-American male, but he's turned into a almost albino wolf there. So it starts to stir things in my mind. So number one question I have, and hopefully the audience is wondering about this as well, is that this pain, these powers that they develop, is it a reflection of their pain? Is it a reflection of their personality? Or is it a reflection of both? Or is it just random? So, because it could be that too. So,
okay. Without giving too much away, the answer to that question is all of the above.
Okay. Because that's very interesting, because, I don't want to speculate. And, as you and I have done this before with the writer's code and everything, you start speculating and rewriting stuff. But I look at some of these characters and I'm starting to put my own story on them,
That's right.
Which is cool.
Right. We can't help it. We can't help it. If you're really a writer, you can't help it.
Yeah. But it's very cool. But yeah, I love that. Now, we've already talked about the fact that the mafia is given their powers. These people are powered individuals. Presumably, in return for getting powers, the mafia is like, now you're going to pay us back by doing some work for us. These guys are presumably the protagonists in the story. What can you tell us about the antagonists in the story? Can you give us a little insight into that?
Man, have I got some antagonists for you.
Okay.
if I say too much, it's going to be a spoiler. So I'll say it like this: they are different parts of their lives, and sometimes antagonist. The word antagonist just means someone that's opposing your goal. That's
Mhm.
not the same as evil.
Right.
And sometimes the antagonist wants the same thing that you do. They're just going about it in a different way. So what I can say without revealing too much is that there's more than one. It's not just a situation where there's just like a core antagonist. We're gonna meet. That's why you know how it is when you write a book. You can't wait to get to book 2 and 3
Hmm.
because you're just laying some groundwork in book 1, even though it's exciting and all that. But there's more to come. So there's more that we're going to meet as the story develops, because each one of them has a unique and complex backstory. So one of the things, like you talked about earlier, about my takes and all that, one of the things that I strive very hard to do is to give a fully fleshed out character. And so each one of them, as you get to know them, you're going to see that they're not just tropes. They're actual characters that have been thought about, planned out, looked into, and so you're going to spend some time getting to know them and their situation.
Now, one of the questions I got some, man, I got so many questions. One of the questions I got here is, I'm looking at this and I'm like, not that it's exactly like these books, but I'm asking myself, is this a Thunderbolts type book? Is it an X-Men type book? Is it a Suicide Squad type book? Is it a crime syndicate type book? Or is it something that I don't even know? Can you, without speaking, give us an idea of what kind of book it is?
Okay, let's go through each of those. But the answer is no.
Okay.
It's not any of those kind. The X-Men are about being born with powers that show up in puberty, and then you having to deal with everything that comes with that. That's not this. Crime Syndicate is about living on a world where evil wins. And so the superpowered people are evil, and that's what they do. That's not what this is. Suicide Squad is about a bunch of criminals with bombs planted in their heads, and if you don't do what Amanda Waller wants, you just boop.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. So no, I worked very hard to make it somewhat unique, but the style of the book, the idea is that I will say it's sci-fi and fantasy and a little bit of crime thriller, but it's got you got to have that comic booky action. If it's a comic book, you got to have some action and all that. And so it's much more about uh, the kind of the ongoing context of the mafia and mob bosses and what that means in this fictional world.
See that?
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's not really like any of those books that you named, and I worked very hard to try to make it unique.
See, that intrigues me. Then that makes me think, okay, to me, this sounds like Sin City setting with powers, and we're following these people around type thing. Very interesting, very cool. Now, I have to ask this question. I can't believe that I forgot to ask this one, but where did this idea come from? Like, what is the genesis for this in the old noggin there? So,
The genesis for the Z Normals for me was uh, I wanted to have characters that had some type of disability or condition or challenge, but I also wanted to give them a moral dilemma, because it's a trope where you're whatever you are, something happens and then you have powers. That's basically the superhero formula. But I said, what if it's not mutation like an X-Men? What if it's not an accident like Spider-Man? What if it's you were dealing with a terminal illness? What if you were dealing with injury from an accident? What if you were dealing with uh, some type of condition. What if you were dealing with something that you were born with, but it wasn't a mutation? It was just maybe a birth defect or an accident of birth or a circumstance. And then someone gave you the opportunity to take that situation and become some level of metahuman with it. What would you do? Because that, like you said before, that answer is going to be different for everybody. That's not a uniform answer. Just like things that people deal with in life are not all from the same source. Some are definitely genetic because, when you go to the doctor, they want to know your medical history. They want to know what runs in your family. Some things can happen by accident. Some things are, again, things that you experience in the course of life. And so my idea was, what if you're coming into it from that kind of situation and somebody gives you a taste of being a metahuman? What is your response to that? And what if the people that did that for you was the mafia?
Yeah.
So we're already in all kinds of delicious writing, moral dilemma territory. Who am I? Who was I? Who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? What are my values? And that's meat when you're a writer. That's what you want to sink your teeth into. The power of Spider-Man is that Peter reacted like anybody 15 would react. I want fame, I want money, I want girls. Okay. And then, because of his negligent attitude and his not getting involved to use that power to help, he lost the man most important to him. That's what made him a crime fighter. He did not decide to fight crime because he got power. That's the core of Spider-Man. And so you have to have some type of motivational core when you write. And my motivation was the idea of, what if we're not dealing with, anything other than life stuff that you couldn't help? And then someone gives you a chance to transform that. Would you take it? What would you do with it when you get it? And can you live with it?
That's such an amazing canvas you've created to write on, because while you're writing a book with powered individuals, what you're really writing is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is a story that is about people and revealing their personality through this thing you're going on, and their struggles. So it's really a human story. So just happens that the people that are humans happen to have powers, so that's pretty fascinating. That's good stuff. So I think I know the answer to this one, but I got to ask you the question because I'm interviewing you. Why comics instead of a novel?
For this story or in general?
This one.
Because as you know, like you said, you know the answer. But for those that don't really know me, I don't think, just like a writer, some part of me is a director. So I don't know if I'll ever actually do that. I have scored a film, but I have not directed a film, and I'm extremely visual. So I don't know if that will be a part of my life at some point, but I think like a director. So I see angles, I see shots, I see perspective, I see what's going on in the frame. And I've also studied that. I continue to study that with writers and artists, because it's not, like, for example, I was reading Superman, Batman, World's Finest, and studying Dan Mora's art, and he's just amazing. I don't have enough superlatives for how good that man is. He had this one panel where Batman was in the earpiece, and you see the word balloons, and Superman is looking at the audience, but his eyes are lit up light blue, and he's using his telescopic vision as he's talking. It's brilliant. And so I see stuff like that, and I want to recreate that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just Superman's looking at you, but he's talking about the thing he's looking at miles away, and also the thing that I think John Byrne introduced, that his eyes are not earth blue, One of the reasons that Clark wears glasses is because the blue of his eyes would jump out at you if you see them. They're not an earth blue, which is why he has those thick glasses to cover that up. So when Clark takes his glasses off, the blue that you see is an unearthly blue. And so Dan Moore and the colorist capitalizes on that. See, I love little details like that. I love stuff like that. And that's what I see in my head. And so that's why I wanted to make this a comic. I couldn't tell the story fully like I wanted to with just words. I need pictures. I need to see the crackle of the power in your hand. I need to see your face wince when you think about maybe what you're doing or maybe when you're changing. I need to see the grief or the challenge. I need to see that. And I need to, and also there's a visceral payback. There's a visceral experience we get from comics. I love Captain Marvel like I love Batman, but the way I think about, I'm talking about Captain Marvel Shazam, not Carol.
Yep.
The
Thank
way
you.
I've discovered I have to clear that up for certain audiences because a lot of people call Captain Marvel Shazam, but they don't know what I'm talking about if I don't spell it out. So I always think about what happens when the lightning hits your body. What does that feel like to be engulfed in magic lightning and you go from being 12 to being 30? You're still you, but you skip adolescence and now you're a grown man, but you're not just grown. You have the strength of Hercules. You have the stamina of Atlas. You can feel it, and you have the power of Zeus coursing through you. What does that feel like? See, I love it, Nims. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so I had to tell the story with visuals because that's the way I'm thinking about the characters. That's the way I'm thinking about the action. You know, what does that feel like? Just like, before this interview, I was outside riding my bike. I love the sun on my skin. I love the wind on my back. I love it feeling flapping in my baseball cap when I'm riding. I love it. I love it. So I had to use pictures to tell the story.
I love that because I think, man, if I could be a crusader for anything, I would love to crusade and let people who are not familiar with comics or think of it as a kids medium that I'm too old for, that visual storytelling is not just for comics and not just for kids stories. It's for a whole range of things. And that what might work visually might not work as well in words and vice versa. And it's like, come give it a chance, because
I'm so glad you said that because I'm a firm believer in, okay, this is going to sound funny, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm a firm believer in levels. So if someone is a beginning gymnast, you can't do what Simone Biles can do because nobody can do what Simone Biles can do. But if you're just starting out, we're not in a conversation about you being an Olympian. And for some reason, if I say that, that wouldn't offend people. But I've discovered when it comes to the creative arts, there's a different dynamic that sometimes people get offended if we talk about levels. But the truth of the matter is, storytelling, there are unlimited mediums. They're vehicles. Poetry is a vehicle, but poetry is not the same as song lyrics because you have to sing lyrics, and everything that's poetic can't be sung. It's a different medium. Visual storytelling of any kind, choreography, small film, animation. See, these are all the ways that we tell our stories. Each one of them is an art form that you need to study for the rest of your life to try and master. It's not so anybody that's ever made a comic will tell you what my first comic looked like and all the stuff I discovered making it and what my later work looked like because you have to grow. And so I do not agree with the idea that comic books as a medium is a child's medium. There's definitely a large segment of comic books that can be aimed at a younger audience, but the medium itself is a very particular two-dimensional type of storytelling medium that can convey so much, and it's worth studying to master.
Yeah, and for all of you who don't understand that part that DT was talking about, difference, for instance, between poetry and music, try saying this as poetry. War, what is it? Doesn't have the same hit as if you sing it to the music. So, you
Don't
know.
hit the same.
Cool. All right. So I think that's a great look at Xenormals. Everybody, we're going to do something fun real quick before we get out of here, but make sure you go in the link in the description of the video, find the link, go sign up for the pre-launch page for Xenormals. Get your information in there, just saying you're interested in it, and you will get notified when this thing goes live. Make sure you do that right now. So if DT is amenable to it, we'll go and do something fun real quick. I love to ask some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You know? And then we'll wrap this thing up. So, all right, we'll start with an easy one. You know, the standard American go-to, coffee or tea?
Tea.
All right. So you're saving the tea from the British there on July 4th. Next, let's go. You know, I already alluded to it. I don't know. You're probably going to say neither, knowing you, in the way I do. But Suicide Squad or Thunderbolts?
Neither.
Yep, I knew it. Let's see. Best Batman villain.
Best Batman for me is Mr. Freeze. Because Mr. Freeze does what he does for the exact same reason that Bruce does.
Okay. Here's a good one. I've seen this one going around on social media. Best Starfleet captain.
Best.
Not best show, best Starfleet captain.
I get it. It's a tie between Kirk and Picard because Kirk puts his found family above everything else and says to heck with regulations. Picard is principled, at least he was, and Picard is principled enough to realize that the Federation can't stand if you just violate the rules anytime you get ready.
Okay. I'm going to stay on Star Trek because we haven't talked about Star Trek for a while. Riker or Spock?
Spock.
Okay. Why? I got to know. And I'm talking about Riker or Spock as like a second in command type. So.
Because even though Spock despised it for most of his life, he has the best of both worlds. He has the cool, calculating, factual, logical nature of Vulcans, and he has the hot-blooded passion of Vulcans and humans because he's a mix, so he can understand both perspectives, even if he don't like it.
Very cool. Very cool. Very interesting. All right. Last question, and I'm going to stay on Star Trek, but I'm interested to hear what your answer to this. You can take this however you want. I'm just going to throw the two names out there. Klingons or Romulans?
All Star Trek villains, or at least most Star Trek villains, are written to amplify a certain part of humanity. So Klingons are written to be feral, and Romulans are written to be as cold and calculating as possible. So who I'd rather go up against is Klingons because they have honor. They're not going to do stuff just to do it, which is why we hated, what's his name from Star Trek 3 so much. Yeah, because they do stuff. If they're going to die, they're going to die with honor. They're not going to refuse to fight you if it's not a fair fight. Now, Romulans will infiltrate your whole thing and no. So I'd rather fight Klingons.
I absolutely agree with you. But here's my follow-up question. Who would you rather write? Because I know the answer for me. But
I'd rather write?
Yeah.
I'd rather write Romulans.
Exactly. You've given the right answer. Good job. So because they're that much more I'm not going to say nuance because that's the wrong word, but they have that. There's more room to explore all of the deviousness of Romulans versus Klingons. They got their heart on their sleeve right there. So,
Well, just like with anything, just like with you and I, any creator, there's always expansion that can happen in your story world. Roddenberry's story world was about us getting rid of poverty and interplanetary war and reaching out to the stars because we solved our problems, being better. But the conceit of that mythos is that everybody in the universe is not scientific explorers. That's why we need a phase cloak. And the Federation was like, no, we signed a treaty. And I'm like, no, Pressman was right. Y'all don't understand.
You know what? If we keep going down this rabbit hole, we could be talking for another 90 minutes because I think Star Trek has a lot of lessons to teach us at all times. So, but yeah, definitely interesting. I'm trying to think. I want to ask you one more. I know if I ask this question, I already know the answer, but I might as well throw it out there. Batman or Superman? So,
to write or to be, or who's my favorite?
Yeah, I want to put this a little different because I know
my answer is for all of them is Batman.
Okay, I would say so. Who is the better within the fictional universe? Who is the better example for humanity? Batman or Superman?
Definitely Batman. People don't think about the amount of pressure you would live under if you were Superman.
I take it a completely different way, and this isn't. I didn't want this to turn into a whole discussion, but I think Batman's a better example. Once again, right answer, because Batman shows what you can achieve without being born to power. Batman achieved it all through some talent. Don't get me wrong, but sheer bloody hard work. So
hard work, a relentless drive that won't let him quit. But see, the thing about being Superman is the difference between the two of them is you don't have any expectations for Batman. He just kind of does what he does. And if you live in Gotham City, you want to stay on the right side of him. You won't see him unless you get on the wrong side of him. Superman is different. He's a symbol. And what that means for humans is that you are going to project what you think that means onto him. It's the same way people do with anything else, with leaders, religion, anything. And so you're going to offend people every day because they're going to keep saying, you should be doing this. You should be doing it. Why aren't you helping? Why aren't you doing this? And Batman ain't got none of them words. Batman's like, I do what I want. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, these are. Hey, everybody in the comments, leave me a question because, I don't have a lot of time, but when I do have time, I love to talk about these types of things. Do we need a show where we just kick around these types of ideas? These types of just crazy nerd ideas, nerd culture ideas with no agenda, not tied to any TV show, nothing at all. We don't have to deal with other people's stuff. We're just kicking around these ideas. I think we do. If you're interested in watching something like that, let us know, and maybe we'll see what we can do. So, but that is for another day. This has been an incredible interview here with you, DT. Thank you so much for being on with me, man. It's always a pleasure. So
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And before we get out of here, once again, look down below, everyone. You can see that the banner has been down there the whole show. That is the link to the pre-launch page for the Z-Normals. It's also in the link is in the description for the video. Make sure you go check it out. Please click like and subscribe on this channel. Also, please share this on social media or with people so that they can see this and figure it out. Come to the show, come to the Z-Normals. It's definitely worth a look. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. The writing sounds amazing. I know this man. I know that he does amazing work. So go check it out. You're not going to be sorry. And on behalf of myself and DT2 Comics Chat, why don't you, I'm going to say thank you. And then I want you to take us out of here by letting everybody know where they can find you on social media and the interwebs out there, and we'll get out of here. So.
I'm on Twitter every day under DT2 Comics Chat right there on the screen. But also, I want you to follow my comics company account, which is Nucleus Comics. And the tagline of my company is Nucleus Comics, where comics are born.
Nice, nice. So on behalf of myself at DT and the Comic Crusaders channel, thank you for watching this episode of Noon with Them, and I will see you next time, because it's noon somewhere. We are out of here.